Matt, what do you take from that performance you had at the Big Tens, and how do you use that moving now forward into NCAAs?
Take a lot of confidence away from it. Going into the meet, my goal was just to really execute the plan that me and Jared come up with. And I thought I did a really good job with that. And so going into NCAAs in a couple weeks, we're going to have another plan. It might be a little different. It might be similar. But it gives me confidence that whatever we do drop, I'll be able to execute it really well. And yeah, whatever success comes with that, it'll be that.
You guys had guys step up in big ways, especially Connor. Just what have you seen from Connor the last couple of weeks? After a tough freshman year for him.
Yeah. Same thing, a lot of confidence. He was in Arkansas a couple weeks ago and put together a really good 3K. And I think that gave him the confidence that going into Big Tens, he could run a really good 5K, run with some big names and beat some big names. And that's what he did. So going into outdoors, I'm sure that he'll use that momentum and just continue having the great season he's been having.
What sort of thought process did you bring into the season in terms of what you wanted to accomplish, how fast you wanted to run, and kind of where you thought you were going to be at this point?
Right. I never really go into a season with time expectations. That's not really something I focus on. Indoors kind of breeds that because the way to qualify is objectively just how fast you run on paper. My goal is always how well can I compete? This team loves to compete. That's the whole goal of this sport, is to go out and try and beat people. And so going in, Big Ten was a big goal of mine. I was really putting some emphasis on that meet because I knew that if I could run well there, it'd give me momentum for potentially nationals and the rest of the outdoor season. So that, and then along with NCAAs, that was a goal of mine to qualify. Going into it, my big goal is just to go in there and compete really well. If I can execute a plan that Jared and I have together, I think that good things will happen.
It's by and large just a bunch of 146 guys in that meet. Do you look at those times and those competitors and be like, this is going to be, I got a shot in this if I perform well?
Last summer, I felt like I was in a similar position where I'd run some decent times. I was in pretty good fitness, but I didn't make the national meet. I didn't execute on the day, but I went on to run a fast time in the post-collegiate season. I ran 145 that summer, beat some really big names, same names that you see at nationals this year. So that gave me some confidence going into this season. Not so much the times on the paper, but the names that I see. Those are all guys that I've run with in the past and have competed really well against. So that gives me confidence going into this meet that, yes, it's a lot of 146 guys, but me and Kadali have shown that we're there as well. And so on the day, I think that we are just as much a competitor as anyone else in that field, and we'll be able to, put together a really good performance on the day.
You guys have been away from home for a lot of this indoor season, but you're going to have a ton of outdoor meets here. You're going to have the Big Tens, NCAAs. How much of an advantage is that for you guys?
It's huge. This indoor season's just been pretty hard to manage with all that travel. Being able to train and feel like yourself on the road isn't as easy. Being at home on arguably the best track in the world, this is my absolute favorite place to compete. And so that gives us, I think, a big home advantage. The Eugene, Oregon, the home crowd, Tracktown USA, they are fans of track like none other. And so going into those meets, I'm really excited to run at home. I can't wait to see what this team puts together for an outdoor season.
Is that like something you guys think about a lot in your preparations? You're like, hey, we are running at home. It means something.
A little bit. Yeah, when the O's on your chest and you're running at Hayward, there's a little bit more pressure, a little bit more expectation on you, but it just fires all the athletes up to perform at their best. I think that the crowd is used to seeing great performances here, and we hold ourselves to the expectation that we want to give those performances to the crowd. So going out there and competing as hard as we possibly can and trying to put the O in front of everyone else is our big goal.
In terms of going to Virginia Beach, have you guys kind of gone over the points as far as like what the distance guys can put together to potentially bring a team trophy, which I know it's a couple weeks from now, but I'm sure that's a conversation you're having with Jerry quite often now.
I did the math in my head. I think the maximum number of points we can score is like 38, and that's if we go like 3 golds and a silver. I don't know if that's enough to win a team title.
But a trophy, though.
Yeah, definitely. And so, again, what we've just been talking about is going in there, executing as well as we possibly can, and competing on the day. I think that if we do that, we have the personnel that can get the job done. Whether that's 4th place, 3rd place, I'm not sure. But we'll be proud if we can go out there and compete with the top teams in the country.
What's Kadali been like to have on this team, and what has his addition meant to the group?
He's great. I've been running really well this year. I think a big part of that is that he's been a training partner of mine. Him and I work really well together, and him as a teammate with the rest of the team, all the guys love him. He's just the most talented athlete you've ever seen, and a great friend, great teammate. So I'm really glad that he's been here this fall. He's a little dinged up coming into the indoor season. That's just a nod to how good of an athlete he is, because he was able to come off that injury, run really well with minimal training, and then pull a second at Big Tens, which is not easy to do. So going into the national meet, 2 more weeks of training under his belt, he'll just get more and more momentum under him. And so he'll be very dangerous at a national meet with 2 more weeks of training under his belt.
Jerry's talked about how he's very new to indoor track, and he's had some adjustments. What have you seen from him, and what's that been like?
Man, it's just a different sport. It feels like outdoor track. The setup is more familiar for him, more familiar for me. Growing up in Canada, even though there's a lot of snow on the ground, I didn't run a ton of indoor track. And so outdoor is what I'm really used to. This year, indoors, we were really focusing on our execution in races. When the track becomes a little bit smaller, there's a lot more technical maneuvering that you need to be able to do. And so that's something that with the distance team we've been really focused on, is where to position yourself to set yourself up the best you can for the end of a race. It's really hard to move around bodies on a 200-meter track with 50-meter straights. So that's one of the big ones. The other thing is, again, similar to outdoors, is just competing as hard as you possibly can. We've really put an emphasis on competition this year, beating as many people as you can, and the way to do that indoors most of the time is positioning. So, yeah.
Do you like that challenge?
I do. Actually, I really do. I think that when you are able to run well indoors, it demonstrates that you have great tactics under your belt. Running is not just about who's the fittest, especially in the 800. It's about setting yourself up to be in that the correct positions in the last 100 meters, 200 meters, whatever it may be. So this is great practice for that. I've really enjoyed this indoor season because I feel like I've learned a ton tactically. So yeah, it's been great.
What do you guys kind of talk about in terms of the mental aspect? I mean, people who come to Oregon are on a certain level of athletic ability, but there's a lot of mental training that you have to do. What do you guys talk about in terms of that?
For me personally, I've put a lot of pressure on myself in the past. This year, something I've been doing to take the pressure off is, instead of focusing on outcomes, so whether it be where you finish in a meet or what your overall placing is, focusing on your execution, the variables that you can control, making sure that you perform the best that you can on any given day. And if you execute your plan and the outcome isn't quite what you want, well, you take that as a win, because you're coming away with lessons learned, and you know that when the time is right, the fitness is there, when it's your moment, you'll be able to step up and execute a plan that's there for you.